Pink City Mom welcomes all of you lovely mothers from Jaipur out there. And I request all of you to put your hands together for this amazing, amazing community. This community of people who give more than they could possibly do to keep us healthy, to keep us safe, to keep us the way God made us to be. So I would first like to say Happy Doctor's Day to every doctor out there and to convey my heartfelt and absolute thanks for everything that they do for every one of us out here. Um, a doctor enters our lives from the moment I think we come into this world. I think they are the first people who actually handle us even before our mothers do. So what better is there of a thanks that we should give to the people who first handled us? We can't do much more than saying thank you again and again. And on this beautiful, beautiful day of celebrating our doctors, I would like to welcome Dr. Ritu Joshi here on our FB Live to have a conversation on aware motherhood. Welcome, ma'am. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thanks, Preeti. Thanks, Preeti. And a lovely introduction to the doctors. But don't raise us on a pedestal also, please.
No, ma'am. No, we won't raise you on a pedestal, so it becomes easier to fall, but respect where it is due. And
Thank you.
Before I introduce ma'am, I would first like to introduce Pink City Moms to maybe the new members who've joined us after our previous live. We are a community of mothers. We believe it's a sisterhood, and we believe in sharing, caring, and basically being a supportive community and a platform, which is what Pink City Moms is all about. We are all about meeting, greeting, having seminars, sessions, learning from each other. And we hope that all of you people who are out there can give us back just as much as us, the team, can give to you. With that, I would now like to introduce our special guest to all of you. So if Dr. Ritu Joshi is a senior consultant. She's practicing in Fortis Escorts and in Surya Hospital, Jaipur. She's been the vice president of FOGSI in 2014 and the chairperson for the Family Welfare Committee of FOGSI between 2009 and 2012. She's been a faculty in various colleges. She's represented the community in various national and international conferences. She's written various book chapters. And if anyone has written a book chapter, I know she's got an amazing list of students who must be looking up to her. Welcome, ma'am. It's an absolute pleasure having you with us today.
Thanks, Preeti. And I am proud to be a part of your August club. And I hope I can impart some kind of a knowledge and we could, interact on the club more on this podium more and, solve each other's concerns and problems.
Yes,
so I would like, before we start our formal conversation, I have a few things to share on this podium. Now, can I do that? I have some 9-10 points which I would really like to share.
Please do, ma'am. Please do. Today is all about you. So however you'd like to guide this, we are more than happy to have it that way.
So first of all, let me thank all of you. And that includes my special thanks to Pritika, Astha, Preeti, both the Preetis and Tripti there. If I miss out on any name, please don't feel offended for it. But, as far as the Pretty Moms are concerned, I initially thought, I'm going to address the women who are going to become moms. But I suddenly realized that I said, wow, they've already become moms. And then I'm going to address, our topics become a little different. But still a few common things I would like to share over here. Number one is that always trust your doctor. Now, this is something, which is very, very important. And please tell the doctor all your ailments correctly. Don't hide anything from a doctor. The second thing is always keep your records of your tests, your medicines, your, earlier medical surgeries or anything been done in a very chronological order. We've been seeing, women coming to us and then, there's one file. And, when you go through the files, you mostly see the bills or the receipts. they those are kept very well, but the tests and other recordings are not there. So I would really like it if the girls could, do that. The third thing which is important is that be intense about your own health issues, and not to be worried. When we tell you there's something, of course, it's a matter of concern. But, we have nothing to fear out and except for the fear itself. So, discuss properly whatever you've understood, and then, let it seep into your brains, and then you start questioning or fearing it. Instead, of course, everyone's health is important. Everyone gets a shock first time when they hear anything, but I think that would be, far better. Certainly be intense about it. And sometimes, your doctor, I'm one of them. Sometimes your doctor may be stern, or she may be strict, which I am very. That's not because, I don't care for you. It's not that, I want to, abuse or anything like that. There are a lot of girls who are very sensitive to all this. And, sometimes they even walk out of the clinic. Well, doesn't matter. Our concern of being stern and strict is only because we want to see that you are treated, and we also want to see that you have compliance of the treatment. You've got to realize that sometimes, they say, why did you speak to me like this? You've never spoken to me like that earlier. It's not that. It's just that we want you to understand. It's a commanding language. Let's put it like that. An army officer always speaks in a very commanding way. So we are also equally like that. So understand us also. And then, form your own opinions about a doctor. Then the other, because, we are going to give you care. We need your compliance when we are treating you. The other thing is, while you're waiting in the waiting room to enter into a doctor's chamber, please write down all your small events properly. Sometimes what happens is you ask them for your last date of the periods. The girls usually look at their husbands, and the husbands look at them, and then suddenly the husband, roughly says, I think it was a Tuesday. I think, just write it down outside what your LMP was. How do you have your periods? Something like this is always jotted off, because, that time in our consulting room is not being wasted, and we utilize the whole time in the right manner. So that's other thing which is very, very important. The next point I would like to make over here is to keep a log of important informations handy always, on your mobile. Like sometimes, something like a blood group. I think I'm a O positive. There was a patient of mine who said that she was A positive, and we needed 1 unit of blood for her. We looked around here and there desperately, and, ultimately we came to know that it's not A positive, she's AB positive. So, that time was wasted. Sometimes even, you suddenly have to donate blood. That time, all that is saved when you know yours. Also know about your drug allergies. That's something which is also very important. Just keep a log of this, that I'm allergic to these drugs. Otherwise you'll say, I'm allergic to some drug, but I don't know. I think it was that tablet. So, at times we miss on those things. That again is something which one should keep a log. And the other important thing is, something like, have you had any surgeries earlier? What was the surgery about? It's your human body. You have rights to ask your doctor 10 times, what am I going to undergo? How am I going to undergo? So understand and keep a log of that. The other important thing which we are coming now across is that most of you do not have any family history in place. Of course, in our country, we don't make family trees, and we don't know that, thalassemia is common in my family, or a single gene problem is common in my family. So you should have a log of that. I think no, I don't have any family history. No, there's nothing in our family. And suddenly she'll say, oh, I think, my mother's just become diabetic. I said, I asked you a family history. I didn't ask you when did she become diabetic. You understand? So these are a few things, which are very important, and especially the genetic disorder. Because there was a patient of mine, and very sweetly, her mother-in-law came and told that, madam, in my other family, in my husband's other family, we have, dwarfism, which is very common. Now, see, this is something, which she was aware. And she says, anyway, we can rule out that in my family, it doesn't come. So at least that's something, which is very, very important. So keep your even genetic history sometimes, ask your grandmother if she is still there to, did we have anything like this? Just figure it out. Then also take preventive measures for your own health. A mother is always a multitasking woman. She might be, she's a mother, she goes to her office, she's a working woman. She has to take care of her household. I mean, the whole family, which includes the husband, the children, the in-laws, or whoever. So you should take care of your own health. The ways to take care is get yourself vaccinated. At present, the COVID vaccination. Get yourself checked up for cervical cancer, which is preventable. If you haven't taken the vaccine for cervical cancer against it, please go ahead and take it. Get your ultrasounds, done regularly. I don't mean that goes every 6 months and get it done, but get your medical checkup done at least annually once, so that we know where do you stand. And even the breast examination, which is very, very important these days. So a pap smear could be done for cervical screening, a breast examination could be done. And also here I'll say to all the Pink City moms, please keep your weight under control. That's something which is very, very important, because even in those examinations, always, think about your small, small symptoms. Like, you feel a little lethargic. Why are you feeling lethargic? Get your hemoglobin tested. In our country, 50% of the women are anemic. And if we keep that, under track, we take care of that, we'll be able to take care of our family, our work far, far better. So keep a track of your hemoglobin, keep a track of your blood sugar levels, because 40% of our women are diabetic. I mean, 40% of our population in India is diabetic. So we will somehow or the other will have to,
Is my network an issue, or has ma'am?
No, I think it's ma'am's issue.
I think let me just talk.
I guess.
Let me just talk.
Ma'am's camera is stuck in the voice. Is she disconnected?
Most like no, I can't even hear her actually. I
Preeti ji,
just
we can't hear you.
But I think there is a network issue at her end. It's stuck, the camera and the voice. Should I call her?
I'm sorry, the connection.
Can you hear me?
I'm
ma'am.
sorry.
Yeah. We lost
I think
you.
the instability of the connections net is there.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
also, listen to the team carefully before you start questioning them. That's something, another thing which is very, very important. The minute I say something, the husband or someone, just pops up another question. So the whole trend of the thoughts gets changed at that time, because we are going to answer your question automatically also, but we are there to answer all your questions whenever required. Then so keep all your appointments in schedule. That's another very important thing, because there are so many things, like a woman coming to us for a treatment of pregnancy, let's put it as she's showing us during the pregnant time, she misses on some important things which are at the 12 weeks, which is at the 18 to 20 weeks. So if you're missing on an appointment, ring up the doctor, or in whatever way you communicate with them and say that I will not be able to come. Please, am I missing on something which is important, or can I come after 5 days or whatever it is? So that also would be something which you don't miss. A lot of infertility workup also is done according to the periods. A lot of your own treatment as far as menstrual irregularities is done according to the period. So just ask them. There won't be any problem, but you can reschedule your appointment. But is this appointment, at least make it a point that you speak to her about it. And the other thing, I've always felt that patient and doctor relationship is very important. I always tell my patients, pregnant women, that in case if you're going somewhere else to deliver, please go in time, so that you have a nice rapport with the doctor. Go and get your treatment properly. When leave in time, meet another doctor, there's no problem, but go in time. Just don't spoil that relationship. Because I remember in older times, our parents, and even my grandparents, the GP practitioner used to have the will of the grandfather or someone lying with them. That was the relationship which was there with the doctors. And I love my relationship with my patients. I just love it. I enjoy talking to them. I learn a lot from them, which is, outside the four walls of my clinics. I learn a lot from them. So I would really say that the patient and the doctor relationship is wonderful. Association of it is of empathy, care, and essential, for a healthy society today. That if we have a good rapport, we'll be able to do very well. And today, I'm feeling very proud that I could see lots and lots of, love expressed in the messages which came to me. Rather, I still have a lot, and I think I'll peacefully reply to all of them. So that is something which I today have really enjoyed. And that's been my day, of course, besides being on the podium with you all. So I'm very proud that, the mailbox is full and there are loads of messages which are from the patients. And, the best part is they are also from those girls with whom I was very strict, and whom well, they still love me, which is something which has given me a lovely feeling. So, some of them have also been those people whom, we've received from them the time of the COVID time period. They were suffering and we were there holding their hands, trying our best to be with them and to give them the support. So I'm very proud today, and I would rather like to end today in a way of this little conversation with you, is that I would love to be a doctor again. If there's another life, I want to be a doctor, and I would really love to be an gynecologist and an obstetrician to deal with the modern women today. Thank you.
How sweet was that, ma'am? I mean, on behalf of everybody, since everybody is actually muted or on live, so this applause comes to you from the audience on behalf of everybody who's listening. And aapko lagega awesome is my takiya kalam, but I can't help it. You are awesome. I mean, I'll tell you, the relationship that you're talking about, the one that we build, the doctor-patient relationship. I think a big part of it is because you are the kind of person you are. So I'm not just building you up here, but the fact still remains that having listened to you, I can actually understand why those girls still reach out to you, because you also almost sound like my mother, you sound like my mom. Gaant bhi lagaungi, pyar bhi karungi, kameez se sun lo meri baat bas, which, I mean, I guess that is the beauty of this entire thing.
That's
so
very
beautiful.
sweet of you. That's very sweet of you.
I mean, it was beautiful listening to you. I think Astha wanted to say something, or should I continue with this conversation?
Yes, when this whole conversation was going on, I remember the moment, ma'am, we posted about this live. I remember that at least I got, let's say about 17 or 18 messages directly on my personal messages saying that she's the one who delivered my baby, and thank you for bringing her, and I'm grateful that you are bringing her on Doctor's Day. All kind of these messages, right from Nupur Diwan. I'm sure you would remember them.
I am proud to be a part of their lives. I'm really proud to be. I'm really
proud. It was
proud.
such an overwhelming. Mujhe itna acha lag raha tha that they are still they're so happy seeing you here, and so just wanted
Thanks
to convey
everyone.
this as well.
Thanks to all of them whom I can't see, but I'm very, very happy to get connected with them virtually.
Absolutely.
And the other thing which I'm liking these days, Tripti, sorry to interrupt, is I really want husbands always to be present at the time of examinations of the whenever they come to the doctors. So that we'll deal with later on. Come on, Tripti.
Yes, so sorry to interrupt, but there are a lot of messages on Facebook also coming up that you are our doctor, your favorite doctor, happy Doctor's Day to you. And so many questions are also there. Nancy, Shikha, Pooja, everybody is really happy to see you. And Grishma is already there with us on Zoom itself. She's saying that you're a sunshine doctor.
Oh my God. My God. All of you have been lovely girls, yeah? They're like daughters to me.
And ma'am, Dimple is saying that she's blessed that you have delivered her baby.
Dimple had a breach
today's topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So over to you, Preeti. Let's start.
Yeah. No, but it felt good, listening to all this. At the end of the day, I think that's what builds a relationship. Though I didn't deliver with ma'am, but the fact that I think that's the beauty of our gynecologist obstetricians, because when I had my daughter 17 years ago, my obstetrician still reaches out to me saying, how's Keitki doing? So I think this relationship is forever, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. And the one thing that I carried away from your starting presentation essentially was, ma'am, about awareness. I mean, at the end of the day, the one thing that you kept saying again and again and again is be aware, be aware. So I hope that every one of you who's been listening here, especially the new moms to be, or the absolute new mamas, or for that matter, anybody, any woman at any point of time in life, I think that's what ma'am wants to convey. Be aware of your physical self, be aware of what your body wants to tell you, and convey it to your doctors. I think that is my biggest takeaway from the starting presentation. So, ma'am, motherhood is a blessing, but but there's always a question that keeps coming at every stage of motherhood, especially when it comes to health. For new mothers, especially, what are the most asked postpartum questions that come to you, the queries or the doubts? Mostly asked, I mean, something that could be maybe generally delivered to most of the community out here, the most asked questions, or the most, or what you perceive to be the biggest postpartum issue that a mama faces and you'd like to talk about?
See, one of the most common issues which we always come across coming from the recently delivered moms is breastfeeding. And everyone needs to understand one point very clearly. Women have been breastfeeding their babies since centuries. It's not a new thing which we are going to do, or we are doing, or we are going to do. So, but a modern woman needs to learn 2-3 things which are very important. Number one is that a modern woman, has to have the patience, which is not there in most of us. We get hyper and stressed out very fast. Then my baby is not getting adequate. Of course, they know that breast milk is very important. I agree on that. But they don't realize that the thing which is important is have patience. The baby doesn't know you. The baby was inside you. I always tell my these delivered moms that baby did not learn everything from inside. And always remember, mother is the first teacher. So whatever way you teach, and this third important thing which I always tell the women delivered is that a mother can never be wrong. So don't get guided by others telling you ye position leo, wo leo, doodh kyun nahi aa raha, that those kind of things. Are mother ulta latka ke bhi pilayegi, uske bacche ko pila rahi hai. She's not going to harm her child. So don't listen to others. Close the door and be comfortable with your child, and then in any way, that football position, the regular position, whatever way, you feed the child. But always have patience. You think that today we need a skill which is required to feed our baby. It's not that. It's just an instinct. Do animals they also just stand and then the baby comes running and feed? So there is something like a breast crawl even in human beings, that when we put the baby, I always tell the women that please undo your gowns, keep your baby there. The baby will automatically start moving towards the nipple, because they sense that, okay, I'm going to get the milk from there. So that's something, it requires time, it requires patience, and it requires practice. The second important thing is this, that, ma'am, is the milk coming adequately? If your baby is all right, baby has been passing urine and motion, the milk is adequate. The thing is this, that this is always a demand and a supply thing. The amount the baby takes from you, that much is the amount of milk which is going to be formed. Yes, of course, it pains initially because the vacuum which the baby creates is very painful. But as the milk letdown happens within 72 hours, things go fine. The other thing is, वो लड्डू खाने हैं कि नहीं खाने हैं? Let me tell you that I always tell my women, don't say no yaar for the laddus. A grandmother who can't even walk, who would, who has arthritis, drags herself to the kitchen and makes, the laddus with so much of love and affection. Please respect that. So have half of it. But yes, there are 4 things which are very important, which increase the milk supply, which is scientifically proved. Is number 1 is jeera, Number 2 is gond. Number 3 is methi, and number 4 is saunf. And gond, if you realize, cannot be eaten as, because gond is very sticky in the mouth, so it has to be little fried or whatever it is. But with a little amount of it can be done. So respect them and eat all these things after you have breastfed the baby, because that is when you're losing your calories, your energy towards the baby, and if you have that, it's going to be fantastic. So keep all those handy with you. Respect all the elders. Don't offend them for anything. They are lovingly doing it. They won't otherwise cook, anything for you, but they're doing it only because of this. So please respect them. So breastfeeding is one of the issues which we come across. The second issue which we come across, which is there, is that my baby cries a lot. I really don't know how much has the baby taken the food. The baby, there's one book written by Rujuta Devika, and the first sentence, in that book, which she writes, is that don't lose your mind, lose your weight. She says, eat like a neonate. Once the neonate is satisfied, the baby is going to leave the breast milk. So these are the few things which you really need to realize that. And secondly, every time the baby cries, doesn't cry for food, Ray. Every time the baby wants to be cajoled. 9 months, the baby was totally inside you, so cozy. And then after 9 months, you put the baby on the cot, or you put the baby on the cradle or something. The baby wants to be cajoled. So take the baby on yourself, and then, see that the baby stops crying, might not be needing the food. But also remember that once you fed the baby and the baby is past urine or motion, the baby is going to be hungry again. So that is the time when the baby will require this thing a little more. The second issue which comes up is, the girls who deliver normally, is their episiotomies. The cut which we have to give down below. That hurts them and doesn't allow them to sit properly. Always put a small pillow under one of the buttocks and then sit there, sit on it, so that you don't have a direct stress on the site which we have used, in which we put the stitches. That's the second thing. The third thing is that sometimes they do ask us, when do we go in for our exercises, and so of course, if you've delivered normally, well, you can go for the exercise as early as possible. Even doing all the work of the babies, it's always very important. Also remember that the dyes which we take at hand, we've come across a lot of cases in which if they are not very well trained, purane zamane walis were trained very well, but today everyone wants some kind of a work, so they become a dye and then they come for the massage of the baby, which actually they don't do it in the right manner. And a lot of children have hip joint problems, which we've always seen. So, until unless she's trained, do everything on your own. The neonatologists today teach you how to do that, understand from them, and just do it. Also remember, the first 1,000 minutes of your baby with you are more important. The more you have the baby with the skin to skin touch of those first 1,000 minutes, I think, your baby's development would be fantastic. So these are, the 2-3 main. Of course, the hair fall is there, which is hormone dependent. That also settles down later on its own. We don't need to do much for it. But take your vitamins properly. That's the other thing. So these are the few, very small things which come up, which become big for them. Yes. And also, I haven't been able to get my sleep properly. Now, but you have to understand that when you're feeding the baby, try and adjust the time of the feed in such a way that you get adequate amount of 5 to 6 hours of sleep. 10:30, train your babies in such a way that 10:30 is the last feed, and then we're going to feed you at 3:30. So that's the time when you'll be able to sleep, and request someone else to take care of the baby. Otherwise, extract milk out and give them with katori chammach. Leave the other person to do that. So that's the other way you can, you've got to balance life. That's it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So basically, the one thing that I took away from this mainly is, one is stop being anxious. I think the new mamas have a tendency to overthink. So that is one takeaway that I got from you. And these small tips that you gave, which really made a lot of sense about the 1,000 minutes. I mean, that is something that is really that connects well. I think the first 1,000 minutes do matter.
Psychologically, it does a lot.
Yeah, it's beautiful that you mentioned it. Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, in your introduction, you had mentioned about anemia also, and even now, when you when you were talking about the previous question, when you were answering it, you were talking about vitamins. So, and you've also mentioned to respect age-old wisdom in, accepting what our grandmothers and our our forebearers have suggested with regards to home-based supplementing our food also. So if you could just talk about these deficiencies, anemia, multivitamins, as in how does a mother handle it? Not only when they are, when they are new mothers, but even throughout. Because I realize now I'm at my premenopausal stage. Even now I feel that there is a certain requirement that my body inherently demands and tells me. So I think as mothers, we constantly need some kind of fortification, especially with regards to anemia. So if you could just throw some light on it.
See, we are genetically anemic. I would like to, take a very small, put a small example. Earlier timings, the men of the house were always given the best of the food, and then the leftovers were always given to the women. Now, I mean, you're a modern woman, so you can demand whatever you want and you do whatever you want. But earlier it was like that. So the badams and the kajus and all, which used to come, were always given to the men, never to the women. And men also could be in the form of a small boy, was given more importance than the lady of the house. So the lady of the house was, that time was never given a food properly. That is why you all talk in terms of baby shower, which is a big event in all of your life. But you know what the reason of the baby shower is? The reason of the baby shower in our concept, in the Indian concept, is that a woman is going to deliver. She's going to undergo the labor pains. She needs a lot of strength for it. So let us give her, so you baby shower mein wo log, you don't give them, so you don't play some games or anything. They used to come and put, patasi. I don't know if you know those white
Yeah.
sugar candies which
Candy.
come. Then the second thing, they used to put badam, they used to put kaju, and even nariyal.
Yeah.
So why was it like that? That was because, the women were genetically weak. So what we need to take care now is that we have a little symptom. Now, the other thing is that you as mom should realize why your child is not doing well in a class, or why your child is not directed, attention is diverted very fast. This is something which our parents didn't take care of, and they never realized. They thought ki chalo bachcha weak hai, koi baat nahi, school mein nikal jayega. But you have to realize that why my child is not doing well. Let me speak to a physician. Is my child anemic? That's something which we need to now. I mean, I'm not supposed to be giving examples, but we do have a lot of girls, whose parents did not know that they were suffering from some kind of an anemia. Could be sickle cell anemia, could be thalassemia and all. But because they never took the child, they thought it was just part of it. The child is not interested. But why the child is not interested is something which is, we've got to look. So if we start seeing a growing up child and we start making our child have nutritious food since the beginning, then we always find that the women, and these days you just see that our children are more intelligent now, because the women during the antenatal period are taking iron.
True.
You have to understand that. So I mean, earlier no one used to take them for antenatal checkups. Either ek baar dikhaya, uske baad mein delivery ho gayi. That's more than enough. So that is another thing which is very important. And we must eat nutritious food. The nutritious food, children don't take it these days. They want the fast food, and we too. When we go out, we are hunting around for fast food, and every day we want to go out and eat those. But realize that if we take nutritious food in the form of nuts, fruits, or green vegetables, in the form of milk products, I wouldn't say milk, but I would say milk products, it's really going to improve your anemia status. You wouldn't need to, wobble a tablet in lieu of anemia.
Sure.
And also see that the hemoglobin remains somewhere around at least 13 in 12 to 13 in an Indian woman, not during pregnancy.
Normal.
And because pregnancy has something as hemodilution, so not to be taken, but otherwise, so keep getting your hemoglobin checked, keep getting your vitamin B12 checked. Sometimes the deficiency of vitamin B12 also leads to anemia.
Yeah.
So that's how, and the more we kill our calories, we're going to eat nutritious food and we are going to generate our this thing. That's it.
True.
The second thing is I'll talk over here about calcium also. As you said that you are in the perimenopausal age group and should you take, the more you exercise, during this time period, your muscles and all will help you generating whatever deficiencies you have.
Okay.
That's it.
Perfect. Perfect, ma'am. That sounds pretty logical, actually. I mean, at the end of the day, if we have an inbuilt immunity to, to cater to fight the war that we need to, I think we are all set for it. So, good food, good exercise. At the end of the day, I think that's the way our forefathers and our forebearers have been. They've been so constantly active, and they used to eat well. Which leads to this automatic question of immunity and the lack of it nowadays, and the need for vaccination. So if you could just throw some insight into this, and parallelly there was a question also asked regarding vaccination. Pooja has asked this question, that if a pregnant woman gets if someone gets pregnant between two vaccinations, I mean, how should they get the second dose done? So vaccination in its overall sense and with regards to COVID, if you could just, throw a little light on.
We'll touch all the vaccination points.
Yeah.
First and foremost, all women should be vaccinated. This is another preventive measure which I talk about. Now, most of the women come to us during pregnancy. So there are a lot of vaccinations which we can take during pregnancy and which, will also be of some benefit to our baby. Now, one of the main vaccination which we give during pregnancy, of course, is the tetanus. And instead of giving a plain tetanus shot, we've shifted on to giving tetanus and diphtheria, which is TD.
Yeah.
Initially, if you talk to your mothers and everyone, they must have received tetanus shots. They were बोलेंगे कि pregnancy वाले injections लगवा लिए क्या? They were the tetanus shots which they used to give 3 at that time. Then when I started practicing, it came down to 2, which is way back in 92 kinds. And now we've shifted, to tetanus as well as diphtheria. Diphtheria has come up a lot. And that is one of the reasons why we want you to develop the antibodies. The second shot of tetanus, which is to be taken, which we've been suggesting to our women, is to take Tdap. Now understand what does Tdap means. Tdap means tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. Now the tetanus and diphtheria you know of. Pertussis is something which is to be taken because your child, it's a bacterial infection, which when you take it up, if you don't take it up, your child might have 24 hours of coughing, which does not respond to any treatment. And it's very common these days. In US, it's just been blooming. So you take that, and why do we take it? Because we want to cover one particular window. Now, when your child is born, the child gets vaccinated at 6 weeks. The first vaccination which the child receives is at 6 weeks, which is DPT, which again is diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. So you are developing the antibodies and handing it over the baby to cover up for that time period. So this is the second thing. The third thing which is important is to take up an influenza vaccine during pregnancy. Actually, frankly speaking, everyone, doesn't include only the Pink City moms, includes even the mother-in-laws, the husbands, everyone in the family should take the shots of influenza vaccine, because indirectly it is going to cover up for the COVID, but it also is very, very important for the lung infections. So again, when the baby is born, 6 months, till then the baby does not receive the influenza vaccine. Now, realizing one thing, that the pneumonia which happens in a baby, the newborns and these neonates, is actually pneumonia is because of influenza. You are already giving the antibodies to the baby. You covered your baby with the influenza vaccine, influenza antibodies. Your baby will never have pneumonia because of influenza, which is very common. So you have almost decreased somewhere around 50% of the pneumonia in your child. But I have also noticed that girls come and take it because they're pregnant. They want it to be safe for their baby, but they will never come back next year annually to take that vaccine. So girls, please remember, that's equally important. We have vaccinations today for hepatitis A, we have vaccinations for hepatitis B, we have vaccinations against measles, we have vaccinations against, HPV virus, which actually hepatitis A, we have vaccinations.
Oh, 1 second, ma'am.
I can't hear. Can I
Yeah,
continue?
sorry, ma'am. Sorry. It was a
No issues.
problem on my part. Sorry.
No issues. So, I mean, we have so many vaccinations. Why not, take up preventive measures and save ourselves from all that? So I always tell my women that even post-delivery, if you've not taken the HPV vaccine, which is actually the major cause of cervical cancer, please come back and take. So most of the women have taken it. So I'm very proud of that. And well, rest we will, these are the main vaccinations which, now let's come to this COVID vaccination. The COVID vaccination is available. We have Covaxin, we have Covishield. We also now have the permission from the government of India to give it to the pregnant women. This has just come some 7 days back. So I'll answer Pooja's question over here that in case if you've taken one vaccine when you were not pregnant and you're due for a second vaccine when you're pregnant, go ahead and take it. Because now we are allowed to take the vaccines during the pregnancy. So, but I always felt that all the vaccinations, all my pregnant women have really started taking. I know that so many of them have already taken it, but the thing is this, that when you always take it after 12 weeks of pregnancy, because here the blame game starts. Whatever genetic problem or abortions or anything happens before the 12 weeks. Where whatever malformations in the baby is leading to complications happen before 12 weeks. So, you will start blaming, oh, because I took the vaccine, could be the COVID vaccine, and then you're spreading a wrong rumor about it, of a good thing. So I feel that take it after 12 weeks, doesn't matter. You get a little delayed, doesn't matter. But please go ahead during the pregnancy, read the literature which the government of India has taken out, and please go ahead and take the vaccinations.
Ma'am, what about breastfeeding mamas? Because the question has come up.
Of course, that was the first which came out.
Yeah.
All, the minute this happened, I'm sure the girls, if they've delivered with me recently and all, I've already sent them the message that, the breastfeeding women can take the vaccines. And so a whole lot of them have taken it up already.
Okay.
So, I mean, go ahead and take it. Now, which vaccine to be taken is a question which I keep getting. Well, any vaccine, whatever is available. And of course, I have no idea about Sputnik, to be very frank, but yes, we have a lot of idea about the Covaxin and the Covishield. Go ahead and take it. There's no harm done.
Okay. Thank you for that insight, ma'am. There's also been a question that came up about the cervical cancer, which you mentioned in your introductory talk also about taking a cervical cancer vaccination. So at what age do you suggest that a girl child should go, or a mother should be aware and take her girl child for the vaccination? And up till when should we be ready to be vaccinated for that, as an age-wise?
See, the cervical cancer vaccine now has come into immunization schedule of a girl child. So a pediatrician will always offer it to you when the girl is between 9 to 17 years. So if the girl child takes the vaccine between 9 to 17 years, they require only 2 doses. But after 17 years, 3 doses are required. There are 2 types of vaccines available, which is a quadrivalent vaccine and a bivalent vaccine. I don't know if I'm supposed to be speaking from this podium or not, but I prefer the quadrivalent vaccine because it covers a lot many other problems also. So that is to be taken at 0, 2, and 6 months. There's no booster dose for it.
Okay.
And booster dose, let me go back again. COVID vaccine is an annual vaccine. Please don't forget that. So don't think that, you've taken 2 doses. Please remember that you've got to take it annually. So whatever way now the government will keep guiding us. So that's where the booster dose comes. But here in HPV vaccine, we do not need a booster dose. And women from 17 onwards till the age of, I think 45 can easily take it, because it takes almost 5 years for an HPV infection to develop into a cancer. So 45 years is something which I always tell my women that please go ahead and get yourself vaccinated. That's it. And all the 3 doses, you don't need to stick to 0, 2, and of course 0 you're sticking to, but 2 and 6, within 1 year, you should get all the 3
all
doses.
the 3 done. All right. Thank you so very much for that, ma'am. And though you did mention your preference on the podium, we'll take it. Obviously, I mean, there is. I mean, that's why you're here for us as our guide and mentor. And otherwise, like you doctors always suggest, everybody has their own doctor. They should also talk to them. So,
Yes.
so that is always there. So I understand your hesitation when you mentioned that, but to everybody who's listening, you'll also be talking to your own doctors, but ma'am's suggestion is always there as a guiding light. Here, ma'am, I'd like to slightly change direction to the course of our conversation, because you did mention it through the talk about how you suggest that the men of the house should be involved in anything and everything that a woman is going through, especially pregnancy and post-pregnancy. We do face a lot of women who come with a hesitation of, even mentioning their problems to the husbands or the fathers or the father-in-laws or the sons. Your take on this, ma'am? What do you, I mean, if there's anything that you could more so as a senior mentor, maybe, I mean, I don't know, as a doctor, but in whatever way you can present your advice to us.
See, first and foremost, the most important thing a father can really do for his children is to love their mother. So this is, this is actually, this is, a partnership. You've got to share the burden of the family together. We've got to, somewhere as modern women, cut down that, or rather start changing our in-laws, I mean, our elders, sorry, to understand that the men also should participate equally. I'll share a very cute little example. We had, which you introduced me as vice president of FOGSI. I forgot you don't know what FOGSI is. It is the Federation of the Gynecological Society of India. So we had organized a program, and we had actually, ceremoniously, greeted those women who've really achieved in every part of their life, something or the other. So we had this small girl, if you remember, I think her name was Lakshmi or whatever. She had climbed the Everest. And we asked her to, speak a few words in the audience. And you know what she said? It is the mothers who spoil the boys. लड़के को सुसु आएगी, माँ बोलेगी जा बाहर जाके सुसु कर ले, है ना, एंड उसको कच्छा नहीं पहनता, कोई बात नहीं. टू अ गर्ल चाइल्ड शी से शमीज दिख रही है, वो चड्डी नहीं पहनी तुमने. I'm just using words like this, I'm supposed to be using or not, but that's how the mothers have built them up. You'll always see that men, stop the car, get down and urinate. They are not bothered about, which place they are. They don't know how to hold their bladder. I mean, the first thing which a mother really should teach a man is to hold his bladder. I've gone a little off the thing, but let me tell you that it's a partnership. And as far as we talk in something like a small thing like a kangaroo care. And the kangaroo care is for the father also to participate in. The father also can keep the baby, just take out the shirt and keep the baby on the chest. It is not only for the mother to do it. It's even for the father, because part of the baby, 50% of the baby is from the father. So, I mean, there is nothing like that it cannot be done. So they should rather help out and learn how to change nappies. These days, the nappies are quite simple. Huh? But I would still say, girls, don't forget, the recent moms, please use cotton nappies. Don't use these nappies which are, marketed these days commercially, and especially for the boys. Because once they pee, they will pick up a lot of infection, because you're not going to see that for a very long time. So even the neonatologists these days say, वो पहले जो आती थी ना मलमल की जो घर पे बनाते थे लंगोटियां, वो ही पहनाओ तो better है. Then the other thing which is important for the parent, they could, father could help out in that. Father could even help out in taking care of the baby at night when the mother wants a little sleep. These are the small things. Even during the time of periods, a lot of girls have very heavy periods. A lot of girls have very painful periods. They can at least make a cup of tea and help her out. Yeah. If nothing else, sit down with her, chop the vegetables, learn from her, and then do that. Nowadays, boys are going to America and they ring up the mothers, "Mummy, wo dal kaise banati ho aap?" So when you teach them beforehand and send them, yeah, why should they learn it from there? So we, as you know, as Pink City moms, I think you should start teaching your boys also that please remove your plate from the dining table. So it has to start from them on. Changing your husband now might not be that comfortable, but at least you could request that to happen. I think this is something and also small things can be done that help me in bringing the vegetable from the market, because you just have to go and pick it up and bring. Yeah, so a lot of things can be done even by men today. And one of the things which I told you is to have a very sympathetic attitude when a woman is having her periods, when a woman is in her perimenopausal age group. That's another question which I keep getting from women, is that, ma'am, please tell my husband to be cooperative. I'm very irritable and my this is, I lose my temper very fast. I understand that. And once they understand that, okay, this is part of it, and we've got to give her the support. Well, once they give the support, the women come out of it without taking any supplements. They don't even need the HRT or anything. So
So
I
I
think
think
men can really be of, both, even women are going out to work. Men
Yeah.
can come back and at least, help in making the tea, or, sit in the kitchen also when she's making the tea, and, just gossip with her. That's also something enough. A woman know that she has to make the tea and the food, It's going to be difficult to change this man. I better teach my son all this. And that generation
I
might
think,
be of some
yeah, I
help.
think that will be easier done, ma'am. Actually, I think it's better that we educate our sons right now, and
Yeah.
we make our daughters-in-law's lives easier. I guess that will be the best
Very
thing that
true.
we can
I
do.
agree to I agree to that.
With that, ma'am, a lot of our audience has been listening to you, and there have been a lot of questions that are coming on FB. And there are a few of our guests who've joined us on Zoom, like I told you before, who'd also like to ask you a few questions.
Yeah.
I'd like to start with one question that's come on Facebook
I'm
first.
there.
Yes, ma'am, and then I'll open the platform here on Zoom also. Manoti is asking, how do I recover from miscarriage? How much gap should I keep before I plan my next child? What needs to be done?
Manoti, first and foremost, sad to know this news, but let me be very frank with you. Pregnancy is not a
I'm
smooth
sorry
road.
to interrupt, ma'am. The I is something I have added. I don't think the question has an I in it, so it could be for someone she's asking. So
Okay, sorry.
apologies,
Sorry.
Manoti. Yeah, my apologies, ma'am.
No, I mean, for whomever, I'm just addressing it to her because she's put up that question.
Yeah.
First and foremost, it's sad to know this, but also realize that pregnancy is not a smooth road. During the pregnancy, it just so happens that every pregnancy doesn't reaches the 9th month, but let us figure out what was the reason of that miscarriage which happened before she pounces on the second pregnancy. So there are a lot of common issues which she can ask her gynecologist, that before I go in for a pregnancy, what tests can I get them done? Because thyroid, diabetes, infections, they are one of the most common reasons why we have them. And first pregnancy, usually it's been written in our guidelines that after a first pregnancy, we don't very heavily investigate. It's only after the second abortion we do that. And I tell my women that please go ahead, after 3 months, you can go ahead and conceive. Though WHO tells us 6 months, that you must give the uterus rest for 6 months. But I feel 3 months, because she's so much psychologically disturbed. So it's better that, the first period comes, get yourself investigated and start trying it after the 3rd month. Fair enough.
Thank you so very much for that, ma'am. Guneet, can we have you unmute yourself, and if you could just present your question to ma'am?
Yeah. Hi, ma'am. I joined a little bit late, but
Hi,
it's been
how are
really,
you?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm in my
Great.
16th week.
Wow.
So, yeah, thank you. So my question would be, I've been twice diagnosed with gestational diabetes. So it was earlier, I'm expecting my second child now. So earlier it was in 7th month, around towards the end 8th month. So I was not advised any medication, only a dietary changes and walk was advised. So I got through it, and after that also it's been I had a gap of good 7 years. So it's been sailing smooth, but this time it has developed in the first trimester only. So how worried should I be? And now I've been put on metformin. 500 twice a day. So that is the course that I'm following, and I've been advised to check my levels also 4 times a day.
Okay. So first and foremost, is there a genetic history? Is there a family
Yes.
history of diabetes? So
Very
that's why
strong.
in the second one, it has come up again. It's come up earlier. This is something which is, and did you get yourself checked up between the 2 pregnancies? Were you diabetic, or did you ever get your sugar level checked?
Yes, I did.
You were not
The annual
diabetic
health
at that
checkup.
time. You know, that is
The
the
annual health
reason.
checkup that was.
That is the
it.
reason why always we take a family history, because we anticipate that these kind of things, you know, pregnancy is a kind of a natural physiological stress to the whole body. So a lot of genetic disorders come in that. And so I think there's nothing to be scared of till the time you're taking care and you're on the medication. So be cool about it. You know, but stick to your medication, stick to your sugar levels, and always take a help of an endocrinologist along with your obstetrician. They will guide us very well. So there's nothing to be worried about. Also kill your calories by doing exercise and walking and all. Walking would be a real safe one these days, because you can walk on your terrace, you can walk on your driveway instead of going out. But kill your calories so that the sugar level doesn't increase. The thing which you need to take care of at present is that during the pregnancy time, as the pregnancy advances, the requirement of the hypoglycemic agents, like you're taking a metformin, will actually increase, and ultimately you might be shifted to insulin. So that's something which you really need to take care of. That's all.
That's what I've been told too.
That's all.
Okay.
Otherwise,
So
be
it's safe,
cool.
right? So is it safe, right, taking, eventually, even if I need insulin, is it safe for the baby?
Of course, it's absolutely safe. Absolutely safe. Rather, I would prefer that we get, if you're taking it 4 times a day, are you just measuring, or you're taking metformin 4 times a day?
No. Metformin twice a day, measuring 4 times a day.
And how much, that's not a big dose
500.
also. Metformin
500
1000 is all right. Absolutely all right. That means you're not very severe.
All the
So
best.
enjoy.
Sorry.
Yeah, enjoy
All
and
the
take
best to
care.
you, Guneet. I think
Thank you.
for you, the takeaway, most important takeaway from today's entire life should be, don't get anxious. You'll be good.
Yes, that's it. Don't take any stress.
No
Sab cheez
stress, no
sahi jayegi.
anxiety. I would now like to invite
here, ma'am.
Tripti. Oh, 1 second. Acha, sorry. You're asking something, Astha?
Yes, I wanted to personally ask a question, ma'am.
Yeah.
So I have twins, ma'am. And, while I was, conceiving, I was in the process of conceiving. I had gone through a lot of problems. So here comes my question is, okay, I'm sorry. So the question is, what, if you could brief about the myths involved around IVF and IUI? Like, a lot of women have this question that, IVF is only for infertile couples. Is it true?
No. Both the treatments, IUI and IVF, both are for the couples who've not been able to conceive in a routine manner.
Right.
They are, IUI is the first step taken. You try for 3-4 cycles. If you don't conceive in an IUI, you can go ahead and go in for an IVF. So both of them are meant for that couple who finds difficulty in conceiving. That's it.
Sure. And
The
what
IUI doesn't need a lot of injectables and all. IUI basically needs just a monitoring on the sonography, telling you the right time and going ahead with the timely relationship, or taking the husband's semen, washing it up, with some chemicals, bringing out the best of the sperms out and injecting into you. But in IVF, everything is done outside. The baby is formed outside, and then once the baby reaches a certain part of pregnancy, is put into you. That's it. That's the main difference.
And what is the ideal, I would say, the time gap between 2 IVFs or 2 IUIs? What is the ideal, time gap?
IUI is done every month till you conceive.
Okay.
And IUI is done every month till you conceive. 3 to 4 months of trial is always given. And IVF also is done one after another because you've set a certain hormonal level in your body, and you go ahead with if your first is a failure, you go in for a second one or you go in for a third one. That's your this thing. But even if you want to rest in between and jump into it later on, it doesn't matter. There's nothing like fixed time period between the two.
Okay. Okay. All right.
But IUI, yes, you have to try it one, and then IVF is quite expensive. So, I mean, IUIs are far better to try them for 4 to 6 months also. If you don't conceive, then you think in terms of an IVF. I've had girls, who had 6 IVF failures and got pregnant on their own and came happily. Because I feel, in today's modern couples, let's put it, are, under a lot of stress. They have their own work stress. They have their own family stress. So a lot of times, the only treatment I always tell them is go for a vacation. And let me be very frank, they come back pregnant. My pregnancy test is positive. That's it. So that stress is because all our reproductive hormones, realize, be it in men or be it in women, comes from the brain. Period. That's something which we need to remember. So if you remain stress-free, pregnancy automatically will happen.
My daddy had said this, don't think about getting pregnant. Go, it'll happen. It'll happen either ways.
It'll happen either ways.
I'd like to invite Tripti. She had a question. After Tripti, Kritika and Aditi, please be ready with your questions, because I think we are more or less reaching an end. So we'll quickly take 3 or 4 more questions if it's okay with you, ma'am.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Tripti.
Okay, so ma'am, here we talk about getting pregnant. Hi. So here we talked about getting pregnant and everything. But once we are done with our family planning, we do not want any more pregnancies.
Very true.
So
very true.
With so many contraceptions available in the market right now, which one do you think is the most advisable and the safest for a woman's body?
See, I wanted to mention this some time back, when we were discussing about the role of a husband. Well, why can't you get your husband's, vasectomy is done, yeah? It's the safest and the best method. They're the safest. Let me tell you, they are the safest and the best methods. They are 5 minutes job today. Can you imagine? First and foremost. Secondly, actually men have that idiotic myth in their mind that, our libido will decrease. Libido has nothing to do with that organ. Everything comes from the brain. So it does not decrease. A lot of women also say after delivering, you know what, ma'am, I don't have an interest. But you have to realize, the interest comes from the brain because you're under stress, taking care of the baby, feeding the baby like a mother dairy, changing the nappies. So that is why, you don't feel like going into that act. But basically everything is from the brain. Now, if you make them understand it's a 5 minutes job, they don't even get an incision, they don't even get a stitch, and it's just been done. And if required pregnancy later on in future, you just need to inject out the sperms and inject it into you. That's all what needs to be done. But yes, now let's come to your question. The question of I know your little one is disturbing you. The question of yours is, we've got a basket of, can I continue or should we wait? There's a basket of contraceptives available now. One of the best, which I would tell, especially for the girls who've completed their family, is to get an intrauterine device inserted, which is a copper T. Copper Ts are there for 10 years. Let's say you've completed your family by 30, you have a copper T till 40, and you have another copper T change to 50. Well, you've reached your menopause without, taking any medicines or anything. A lot of myths in your minds are there regarding the copper T, but I think a copper T timely and properly inserted does not lead to any problem. But even if it does, it can just be taken out. It's not going to interfere with anything. And also then there are tablets available, which you're all very well aware of. We've started this new device which has come up, which is going to be inserted in the arms under the skin, which is called as an implant. You could have an implant. There's another intrauterine device called as Mirena, which is there and which is very good. That is for 5 years, can easily be extended to 7 years. And it's got a hormone in it. You might be period free also. And that is also a good one. So the choice, is big. We've got a big basket. Pick up things from that. My first choice is to get your husband's vasectomized.
I'm showing
it
him
were-
this recording tonight.
if it were only so easy, I think is what
I
Christy
know,
is
I know,
thinking
I
right
think
know,
my
now.
wala is agree. I'll show it just
Yeah,
about
I
tonight.
know, I know.
Can I have Aditi asking a question, please? Aditi, are you there? Ma'am, if you don't mind, I'll ask Aditi's question. Basically, she
Yeah.
had two questions, I
Hello.
think. Hello.
So
Is
there are
Yeah,
Aditi?
two
so
things, yeah.
sorry, I was unable to unmute that
No,
time.
it's okay. It's okay. Go ahead, Aditi. We can hear you.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much for these insights, first of all. I'm
Thanks,
really glad
Aditi.
to attend this. Yes. Actually, ma'am, I wanted to ask that how to maintain the amniotic fluid level. I am currently in my 5th month.
I didn't get it. You are in your 5th month, and what do you want to know?
Amniotic fluid levels.
Okay,
So
okay.
actually, I went for the sonography and it
Hmm.
came, AFI came as 9.6 centimeters.
Which is
So my
fair
doc,
enough.
which is fine. Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. 9.6 is all right.
Okay.
5 and below 5 is something which we need to bother about.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So my
yeah.
doctor
But
has
have lot of
advised.
coconut water, huh? Have lot of fluids and have lot of coconut water.
Right. That's what the doctor also suggested. And she said that it should be, the sonography should be redone in another 15 days
Yeah,
to
yeah,
make sure. And, the levels are rising or what, maybe she wants to notice something.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's
that's
only
why I
because
was,
of the if the level is rising or the level is coming below that. Below 5 is something which we need to think about. But 9.6
oh,
is fantastic, yeah.
it's
I won't
absolutely
bother.
fine.
I won't
Oh,
bother.
great. Great. Thank you so much,
My
ma'am. That's
pleasure,
just such a
Aditi.
relief.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Aditi.
Absolutely.
Ma'am, coincidentally, there's another Aditi who's asking a question. She would like to know till what age is it safe for mothers to get pregnant?
Um, this is Aditi only, na?
No, ma'am,
Another Aditi?
there's another Aditi
Okay.
from, I think the question has come on
Yes.
Facebook. Yeah.
Yes. So here, Aditi, you've not been reading the newspapers. A 60-year-old one also gets pregnant. So why are you asking me that question? Well, yes, to be very frank, 35 years is the time period which we always think that we should, after that, start analyzing for genetic disorders and all. Otherwise, till 35 years, it's fair enough to postpone your pregnancy. And of course, if you postpone beyond that, we are there to take care of it. So don't worry on that account. Don't even think that your biological clock is clicking. So you've got to hurry up and all. There's nothing like that. We've got a lot of investigations which we have to follow up because we anticipate a lot of genetic disorders which might get precipitated at that time. So just don't think about it at what is the right age today in today's era. You can even, if you want, you can freeze your ovums and keep them. But I always think that everything at the right time is always better. A small thing like getting your inheritance at the right time is better. You get an inheritance when you already made something and then you get it. Well, it's just add on. Now, when you are older than 35 years of age, you are a working woman, you also get tired. You'll also notice that as you're little aging every year, your capabilities also decrease. Once your capabilities decrease, the child born is, wants a lot. Child wants to be taken to the zoo, child wants to be taken this place, child wants to do that, and you might not be able to do the running around. So just think about all those things and go ahead. Whenever you want to get pregnant, the doctors are there to take care of you.
You're right, ma'am. I think we just lose out on patience with age, if nothing else.
Yeah. We get tired very fast.
Yeah. So there is this question from there are two more questions on Facebook and one that Kritika wanted to ask. I think we'll wrap up with these three questions. Monica would like to know, will third C-section cause any issues to health?
No, not to your health by any chance. The only thing is that the C-section might be done a little more earlier because we anticipate that the scar can give way. Third time being third time being opened and sutured. So third pregnancy distends that scar a little more. That's all.
Thank you so much for that, ma'am. And Pooja would like to know, I'm on 150 mgs of aspirin due to a high PI index and 7 months pregnant. is it safe for me to get Covishield vaccine?
No harm done. Go ahead and take it.
Oh,
Go
great.
ahead and take it. Yeah.
Great. Kritika, can we have a question from you? Yeah, the one that you wanted to ask.
Yes. So I have two questions. One is normal delivery, is it actually, possible after the first C-section?
Yes, you
And
must.
the second question is from Hina, and she wants to know that what she can do normally to, make her baby in the lower belly now in the final trimester. What type of exercises or things should do it for a normal delivery in her last trimester?
First and foremost, always know the reason of your first cesarean section. Was it done because your pelvis was contracted? If there's a contracted pelvis, your bones down below are narrow. Was it done because of that? Then yes, a repeat C-section is going to be there automatically. Or was it done because your baby was breech, or was it done because your baby had a heartbeat loss or something like that? Well, that's not a repeat reason.
No,
That's
so
not
I
a
have
repeat reason.
Reasons. I got operated firstly because placenta started to have calcification. Then secondly, my cervix was not well diluted in my last week also. So I was suggested that, I should go for a C-section.
This is not a reason for a repeat. You can think about a normal delivery in your next one.
Okay. Great. Yeah.
And as far as her question, Hina's question is concerned, well, Hina, of course, your doctor, your obstetrician will guide you better, but always do exercises for the lower pelvis. Walk is one of them, which I would guide you just now. And the other thing, of course, as we're doing all virtual exercises, but those on the balls are also.
Ma'am, I think you have a network issue again.
So do those exercises, and squats are the best and duck walks are the second best ones. So please go ahead and do that.
Oh, thank you so very much, ma'am. You've been a really patient mentor, I would say, and I can see why. I can see why everybody is such a big fan of yours. It's been
really
a
nice
wonderful live with you, ma'am. It's been a wonderful session. Such small, such basic learnings. Something as simple as just be organized when you go to your doctor. See to it that your questions are in place. See to it that you can save time outside the consultancy room, so you can give yourself more time in the consultancy room. Such small things that people should just. And if nothing else, this also adds to basic civic sense. They should realize, everybody out there should realize that a doctor is there to consult for a lot of people. And if you can do such small things to add on to their comfort, it is just matter of give and take. And it's a beautiful relationship that we can build. It's been lovely having you here, ma'am.
Thanks,
Thanks. And there are a lot of people who would like to, get in touch with you. I think Guneet would also like to ask you a few questions. So if it's okay with you, if there's anybody who would like to reach out to you, can we share your number with them? So if they would like.
Of course, I'm always there, and they can go back to their doctor. But before we end, I just want 2-3 things, girls, to tell you all.
Please, ma'am.
Of course, I spoke about the trust, but the second important thing is that always remember that pregnancy, there was a time in older times, when everyone used to say ki post delivery ho gayi baba, dusra tumko jeevan daan mil gaya. This is absolutely true. This is absolutely true. We don't know what events can happen in a normal going pregnancy.
True.
There are such untoward events which are not in the hands of a doctor. They're really not in our hands. A woman, the uterus has its own brains. Always remember that. When you go for kisi ke yahan jaise baithak mein gaye, if you're not supposed to be having your periods, you might have them. There are girls who go for any of these kind of sad events, they land up in preterm labor. That's because the uterus has its own brain. The uterus, refuses to contract post delivery, and they bleed like mad. I can't tell you. So, you know, that is something which is not in our hands. The second thing I would like to share with you all is that sometimes we are monitoring you and your baby through electronic machines. We have no idea what events are going on inside. The heart, you know, when the baby comes out, sometimes it happens that, you know, that heartbeat just goes away. There's something like a cardiac arrest in a baby. You know, and who gets the blame? The obstetrician gets the blame. So to be very frank, we are under lots and lots of stress, you know, when we are delivering. Once the patient goes home, that's something, you know, which gives us a lot of relief. So, you know, understand your doctor. A doctor will never do any harm to you. So when you choose a doctor, see the infrastructure of the place, see how well connected. If you're well connected with your doctor, the doctor will make the own arrangements in which she is deficient with. You know, so have a nice rapport with her, understand her. कोई अपने आप जान करके किसी का harm नहीं करता है. Lot of things are really not in our hands as doctors. That's what I would in the end of this Doctor's Day convey to you all. So don't raise us to a big pedestal. We are happy as where we are. Okay. Love you girls. You're most welcome to get in touch with me anytime for anything. I'm on the WhatsApp. It might take me a little time to reply, but have patience, modern woman.
No, ma'am. It's been amazing. I mean, the things that you said about for everyone out there, if you build that kind of a rapport with your doctor, you will feel you'll feel rightful to ask the question that you want to ask, and the doctor will feel obligated to answer to you. There won't be any bad blood there because you've just managed to create that relationship with your doctor. And this is one of the biggest takeaways that ma'am has given me today, actually. You know, create that happy relationship. What ma'am said, I still remember being on the operating table with my second, and the AC was running really high and I was feeling very cold. And I asked my gynecologist if the AC could be switched down, and she's like, प्रीति तेरे को पता नहीं है तेरा बच्चा पैदा करने में मेरा कितना पसीना निकलने वाला है, तो AC चलने दे.
Very true.
So
very true.
So I understand the stresses that you go through. And for every mom out there, there was a reason why we called today's live Aware Motherhood. As mothers, the best thing we can be is aware. Read up, educate yourself, be empathetic to the doctor that you're visiting, because they are more than empathetic and sympathetic towards you and your condition. Make a beautiful relationship. Thank you, Dr. Ritu, for this amazing live. And I stick to amazing and awesome again with this live because it's been a beautiful conversation. So on behalf of Pink City Mothers Jaipur, a heartfelt thank you. And I request our team to just unmute yourself. And if there's any added thanks that you want to convey to Doctor, please do so.
No, thank you very much. And thanks to you all to listening to me patiently.
It's been wonderful.
Absolutely an honor once again, ma'am. An honor and a very huge privilege to have you on board. A lot of women, a lot of our viewers have seen you, and a lot of doubts, a lot of myths have been busted today. So thank you so much on behalf of the entire team once again for your precious time, and happy Doctor's Day to you all.
Thank you very much.
Doctor's Day, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Love you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Love right back to you. Thank you so very much.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank
you. Bye-bye.